Thank you so much, sir. A very good morning to all the dignitaries who have joined us today in today's webinar. Today is the second day of the webinar. I welcome you here on behalf of Software Group to the second day of the webinar here. Also, I welcome the speaker for today. So, yesterday we got a tremendous feedback from every student, and with a promise to deliver the same session with same enthusiasm and new things, we came today, and I'm glad that all of you joined us today. So without much ado now, let me take a moment to introduce you to your speaker. He is an alumni of Institute of Engineering and Technology, Lucknow of 1988 batch, which was the first batch of the esteemed institution. After gaining decades of experience on several huge projects all over the world, he is now the Vice Chairman of Southeast Asia of Emerge Alliances USA and a consultant on smart city and lightning. Since years, he has been working on technology of future, that is Internet of Things. So now to shower you with his knowledge and his tremendous experience, I now welcome the speaker of the day, Engineer Vinay Agarwal, sir, to take over the session.
Thank you to all. I'll just share my screen, then start my presentation.
Before you start, Vinay sir, I also welcome you, and I'm thankful for you to just giving this opportunity to our participant and as well as for the TMU also, that we are just going to have your beautiful session. So, well, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, sir. I also thank to the esteemed panel of TMC. I can see the names and Professor Dwivedi, Professor Singh, and yesterday I also did the session of Prithvish, which was very interesting. So it's an equal opportunity for me also to share whatever I have learned so far and how we can impart that knowledge to the students, so that in future, as India is taking the center stage for being the world's factory and world's IP knowledge, I think our students can go much better prepared. So that's the intention of this webinar. Let me just reduce the screens because I can't see. Yeah. So it's a short brief of myself, which already Software team informed that I passed out from IET Lucknow in '88. And the good part is that even like in work from home culture of post-COVID, I've been doing it pretty long from Lucknow itself. So I still live in Lucknow. I still work from Lucknow, and my factories or people are there all over India and also some international locations. But it is not difficult at all. I mean, it is really very productive when you're working from home or from remote location. My experience has been now completely 32 years. And I also attended a lot of international workshops. I mean, what I was trying to do was that not to reinvent the wheel and learn what is going on around the world. So I have attended trainings in wireless sensor network in IDTX Berlin, DC microgrids with Emerge Alliance USA, and some of the major lighting companies from Austria, Belgium, Switzerland, and now Germany. And there is also a wireless alliance in Berlin, which is VDS compliant for fire safety and evacuation systems. This is one of the recent projects which I designed in New Delhi. This project is from NPCC, a central government organization. And this is being touted as one of the most smart buildings of the country, signature building, called as World Trade Center New Delhi, which is in an area of 5.5 million square feet. More than the size of the project, the important thing is that this was supposed to be a very smart building. With, you can see there are no boundary walls here. There is no protection from people. And this is the busy ring road of Delhi. Of course, now it is quite quiet. But in the normal times, it was very difficult to even pass through this traffic and go into this building. And then this building was going to add 8,000 cars in the morning and evening, and 40,000 people coming in this building. imagine the mess of traffic and the security. So what we designed here was a complete end-to-end IP solution where anybody, a car or a person, is actually for us an IoT edge point, and they have an access card, which is an active card, and the building talks to them automatically. So the boom barriers will open on their own. The turnstile will give the access to the person for the right floor. Elevators will be going to that door only. There is no button inside. It's a complete touchless experience. I mean, became more relevant post-COVID, but this building was designed in 2016. We had no clue that COVID was coming. But it's a complete touchless entry for a person to go to their floor. And then everything else talks also wirelessly, like lighting, access control, door handles. There is no switch in whole of the building. So you're not actually manually pressing any switch to switch on a light or any other gadget. So this was designed, it was awarded to a large Indian contractor, and the construction is now going on because it was put on stop for 2 years for some legal reasons, but now it is working very well, it's progressing very well. So the first thing I want to address here is, what is the definition of IoT? Because yesterday's session also we had a lot of inputs from various students and faculty. What I want to clarify here is that IoT does not necessarily mean it is connected to internet. We all know that networking came much earlier when we used to network various computers through Cat6 cable or other methods. So similarly, if the devices or equipment are connected to each other, even on a local area network, even on a short range, they are still are IoT elements, because what we are basically looking is that they should be able to communicate to each other, take some actions or give their feedback, not necessarily on internet. So there are two definitions before you on your screen. One is that an interaction between the physical and digital world, and there are plenty of sensors and actuators. And the second definition says a paradigm in which computing and networking capabilities. Just a moment, I have to reduce this screen because I'm not able to read the full. Hold on. So basically, we use this computing and networking capabilities of these devices. So it refers to a new kind of world where almost all the devices and appliances that we use are connected to our network. We can use them collaboratively to achieve complex tasks that require a high degree of intelligence. And further slides, I will show you that the IoT applications are vast. It has absolutely no limit. Anything in the world we do, whether we are operating a train, an aeroplane, people, we are in agriculture, space, buildings, cities, the use are tremendous. Healthcare, for example. So there is no limit to that. But the underlying factor remains the same, that the devices should have a connectivity, networking capability, and for computing to take the data or use the data. Yesterday, we also talked about RFID, or sometimes it is erroneously referred as Wi-Fi. So when IoT we are talking, we are actually not talking of Wi-Fi or even RFID and these technologies. IoT is a much broader field in which these are some of the communication technologies we use for connectivity, depending on the application, depending on the particular needs or the infrastructure of that project. This is also to be told that there are multiple protocols, multiple networks, everything has its own benefits and negatives both. So by way of your own working in your IoT labs or some physical projects, you will discover the weaknesses and strengths of various communication technologies. So there is no fixed receipt that this works best in this application. No, it is all a system design that you have to figure out what are the negatives or what's the positives of a certain technology for some application. So NFC, as it says, near field communication, only a few centimeters you're able to communicate. So basically it is a very low frequency, it works. And there can be two types of NFCs. One is active and the other is passive. You have seen your own phone, it is having an NFC chip. So when you tap on a credit card, for example, now they have NFC chips. So when you take it very near, you don't even need to touch it. You can just take it very near to the point of payment and the data is transmitted. But it will not work beyond certain centimeters, so say 10 centimeters. While in the passive, so there are two types, as I said, passive mode, passive RFID and active. In passive mode, only one device generates the field and the other uses load modulation to transfer the data. For example, when you touch it onto your hotel room, doorknob, and when you check in or you go there, it just opens the door. Passive mode is useful in battery power devices to optimize energy use. So the door handles can be powered or can be battery operated. So it is secure. Like you are touching it to your doorknob. This is not being done from a distance. So only you who have the RFID card can enter the room. And it can also be used as a two-way communication if it is in active mode. Like both are transmitting the frequencies and they're able to read each other. The bigger subject is wireless sensor network. So basically, when we talk of smart objects, we don't just want a communication between one card and one doorknob. What we are looking is that, okay, there is an environment in which all the devices are transmitting their status or signals, and as per our policy designed for that particular area, the other device can pick up the data and take the action. So then it becomes a wireless sensor network. It's a network of a lot of sensors. So it consists of tens of thousands of sensor nodes connected with various communication technologies. They collect the data about the environment or communicate to gateway. So I'll explain more when we come further that what is the role of a gateway and what are the roles of those sensors and actors. And this can be on-premise or this can be on cloud. So it depends again on the application and the system design. And this can be a multi-hop or this can be a single hop. And there are two types of sensor nodes. One is reduced function device, which is of constrained nature, means you want to conserve battery, you don't want to consume power. So then you don't want to have a lot of functions in there. But there are sensors and gateways which are powered. For example, anything which is inside a lighting fixture or a gateway connected to a power source like in Ethernet network, a power through Ethernet. Then it is a full function device. You can have more functionalities than just some limited function. And the wireless technologies or the network topologies can be star, mesh, or hybrid. What it means is that star means that you have got one gateway and all the sensors and actors are actually talking to that gateway and taking back the data from it. But in case of a mesh network, the data is actually being transmitted to another sensor through multiple routes. So if one sensor or device fails, it can still hop to another sensor or device and then go back to the next action. So the action is completed, and because of this mesh, you are able to still achieve the communication even if some device fails. In case of a star network, if one sensor fails, of course, it can't communicate the data. And they can be hybrid. Okay, there are some devices which are into a star network, there's another star network, and then they're part of a bigger mesh network. So again, a system design. And IEEE 802.15.4 is the standard for this wireless sensor network. as I said in the beginning, that IoT devices have application in almost every field of our life. So regarding predictive maintenance, for example, on the ships or on remotely placed telecom towers or so many other equipment, or for energy saving. For example, you can see here in the building. I'll explain you further how we are wasting so much of our energy and how this can be saved by using IoT. Intelligent buildings, transport and asset tracking, smart home, for example, healthcare, food and water quality, and so many others. Today's topic, because I read this in the subject, it was industrial application in COVID scenario. You must be reading a lot of newspapers almost on a daily basis that now when the malls are opening up or airports are opening up or offices are opening up, a lot of precautions that those premises need to prepare themselves so that they are able to have contain the more spread of virus. And a lot of those parameters are like social distance, people counting. That in a mall, you cannot allow entry of more than 2% per 1,000 square feet. Or in the offices, you need to maintain a distance of 6 feet between two people. And of course, for smaller premises, you can do it manually also, but for bigger malls, airports, and big office buildings, it is impossible to do it manually. So you need to have those equipments and technologies in place. Most of our buildings are not really equipped to handle such installations, so you have to go for additional equipment, hardware, and systems, which are complicated and expensive. Now, imagine that if you had your building already ready for this, then probably you would have the things much easy. It's like a mobile phone, that you have got your mobile phone, you have got your sensors and other things, and you can just download an app and it works, right? But unfortunately, our buildings are not like that. In our buildings, we still have a lot of manually connected things which are not really so easy or so well connected to each other. To give an example, if you see here this building, if you see on the left-hand side, this is the asset management, life cycle, energy uses, building services, occupancy, tenant services, waste management, and so many other things. But so far in the buildings, these all have been not really connected to each other. So there is a separate design for air conditioning system, there is a separate design for firefighting system, a separate design for lighting system, and these are all not talking to each other. And even if they have to talk, they have to talk through very complicated and expensive gateways, which is like point of failure. So the design of IoT is basically to do away with all those complicated wiring, architecture, gateways, and other things, and make it very simple. I mean, imagine that you have your laptop, and you can have your Wi-Fi connection from one hotel property or one institute or anywhere else, right? You have your phone, or in a smart home, if you have some Wi-Fi devices, you can connect. But it doesn't happen in building that, right? Why not? If you have same communication technology between all the actors and sensors, then it should connect automatically, right? And you should be able to program it on the software to let the building behave the way you want. So what could happen in today's situation that COVID came and we had to give entry to access to limited people. So you could just program your camera to communicate to the access control that, okay, beyond these many people, you have to restrict the entry of people. There should be an alarm. So if the voice activation or voice systems are connected to same IP network, then it can give an alarm to the person. The guard over there, right now he's using his IQ or his observation that how many people are coming, going, and whatever is happening. But this all can be automated. The same happens in case of an emergency situation. That a fire happens, then the access control gate should automatically be released. It should not restrict anybody's movement. A smoke extraction should happen on its own. Lighting should be able to show the path and elevators should stop working, or there is another there's another thought process that it should not actually be stopped. It should just stop in the fire-prone area, and for the firemen, it should be able to give the access to the right floor. So again, if all the IP technologies or IoT things are there in the building, what we call it as the infrastructure is ready to handle any kind of application. Just like your mobile phone. Imagine that you're trying to convert your building, your stations, your airports into a smartphone. And then you can download any app based on the requirements in future or today, and you can start saving energy or make it more secure and safe. And this, so another very important topic, because I'm not sure whether we have some civil engineers in this webinar, because my intention was that IoT is not really only the subject of computer science or electronics. It actually is in the every field. So if it is civil engineers or mechanical engineers, electronics, computers, so everybody. Look at this angle that government is now making smart cities. There are more than 100 smart cities are already in process. Lucknow is supposed to be a smart city, right? But in a smart city, you made your roads smart or traffic lights smart, or you have a control and command center. Is that good enough? Let's imagine there is a ambulance which has to pass through cities. And you have seen most of the time these cases that you can see ambulance is stuck in a traffic, and then suddenly a traffic police person sees that ambulance and he's trying to get people away so that it can pass. And unfortunately, in India, we don't have those dedicated lanes for police personnel or ambulance to pass. I mean, developed countries, you have a dedicated lane. So here it can be a nightmare for some patient or somebody who really needs a quick. So it's all based on manual diligence of people. Somebody would notice that and put it away. So how could our city be smart without keeping everything on the same? I give a very famous example, a quick example. Yeah, I can hear some noise of Ankit. Yeah. So when you are passing in the front of a school, you will always find so much of a traffic jam and problems. I mean, of course, COVID has taken care of everything. Instead of us taking care of life. But I'm hearing noise from Ankit. So I'm saying that why it is so difficult that the school opens every morning at a particular time and it closes at a particular time, and sometimes it may even have some special events or somebody coming going out. If that school building was a bit of a smart intelligence and we had connectivity, the traffic could easily be managed in such a way that in those times it is diverted to some other area, and when the time is over, it is coming back to the thing. So this is the diagram showing that in a true smart city, you should have your homes where the proper methods of energy management, centralized operations, electronic goods. Distribution companies should have the same systems. I think you need to mute your mic. Ankit Rathore, I think you need to mute your mic. Okay. So you have smart meters. You must be listening about this, that there are big tenders coming out for smart water meters or smart electricity meters. Again, the idea is that nobody is required to go home to home or premises to premises to measure it reading. It should come automatically. And it doesn't have just the application that you have to measure something, you to just give the bill. But actually, it has got much more than that. That distribution companies can then manage the power distribution. They can have the prediction or the calculations, the projections of the power consumption, and accordingly they can balance their grids and give the power supply at the right time. So it has got much more than just metering, but more of an efficiency of the grid. Now we are moving towards electric vehicle infrastructure in our cities. Again, the same that if it is a smart city and everything is connected on IoT, then you can have the right availability of infrastructure and also the load balancing accordingly. Just seeing some questions meantime. Okay, so I'll move to the next one. So as I was trying to explain earlier, that the traditional approach was that there is an IP communication. So now I'll go more in detail that how our buildings were wired or done so far. In fact, I'll not use the word was. I will use the word is, because till date, most of the buildings are designed exactly the same way, which would be 20 years back or 15 years back. That there is a IP communication means a Cat6 or a fiber network through which we are taking the internet into the building. Then you have got all other things like fire, communication systems, alarm, video surveillance, lighting, power, HVAC, and we have got this IP communication only for the internet for the building. Like you want to access your data or you want to make call. Then you have got these three separate networks. Now the era is of converged IT. In fact, this convergence word we have been hearing for last 10 years, where a lot of people, when the fiber started getting laid into our cities, and we started talking about smart cities, and before that, smart grid. The idea is that you should have one IP communication, and all the other services should be on the same communication, right? So what it results into is that interoperability, efficiency, and scalability is lower total cost of ownership and maximum return on investment. These are very important terms, even if we have a lot of students today in this webinar. But when I speak into the industrial or consulting or PMC forums, the most important question everybody asks, if we have to go for IoT-based systems or go for a modern technology, the cost of my project will go up. And what will be my return if I make this investment? So I want to make this very clear that, in fact, using IoT, the cost of project goes down, not up. The problem is that, and this is take some bit of a clue from Prime Minister Narendra Modi, that when he calls Atmanirbhar Bharat, in fact, this Make in India or Atmanirbhar thing, I've been talking in industry forums for last 15, 16 years, because I brought a Swiss company to produce in India, then a German company to produce in India for lighting field, only to say that, okay, what is the value addition you're doing by just shipping certain boxes from Europe to India? Rather transfer technology here, produce here, and maybe take back the material from here. This started happening. It will happen much faster now after this COVID thing, because people are looking for the second source of supply chain, and India qualifies very well. So the students today who are graduating out of colleges need to be job ready or entrepreneurship ready or project ready, that they understand that where the world stands. They understand that what is the import substitution we can give or value addition we can give, and not really become a world's factory like China, rather become a world's knowledge factory like we are in a situation right now. You know that our IT companies, Infosys, TCS, Cognizant, whatever these companies were, for last 20 years, they printed money, but they didn't print too much of a knowledge, because they just did certain process outsourcing much cheaper than which it used to happen in US or Europe. But last 5-6 years, they've been more towards reskilling or skill enhancement and process automation and more of knowledge. So basically, if you see, still we don't have a product from India. Like if you talk of IT, you don't have a Facebook, or you don't have a Microsoft, or you don't have any big popular cloud from India. So that's a challenge, but we can't just jump to the next step. First, we need to have really the knowledge and don't reinvent the wheel, what is available in the world, and then maybe go one step beyond. Don't mimic, but go one step beyond to innovate something and add value. And there's a lot of import replacement possibilities. I mean, if you see in the newspaper today, mobile phones 70-80% components are still coming from China. In case of white goods, there is so much of outsourcing happening from China. Now, if you have to make in India, the most important thing is that in our, because I'm from building industry, so I can talk more about the building. That in our building industry, why can't our engineers and our local organizations can actually develop the sensors, actuators, building management systems, lighting, wall switches, and so many other things that we don't have any import dependence at all. So going forward to that, I'll introduce you some of the ideas which we just now gave to a lot of projects who demanded these things. So if you see post-COVID, they wanted to have the contact tracing, social distancing, track desk cleaning, and work from home and reporting. So how it is done is that you can have a under-deck sensor or a sensor onto the work desk, and this can actually measure the presence of a person out. Right? So who is sitting where? You know, you can actually map these things. Now, to make these programs, you need not. So we are actually doing it by our own software in India, where we can take the data from these sensors and then we can just give it. So it can be done in 2 weeks' time. It doesn't take a lifetime's work. You know? Now, important thing is that when these sensors are placed into these buildings, they should be able to talk to each other without any interference. You know, should not break down every time. You should not be having problems of these sensors talking to each other. So, in fact, one of the colleges in UP Panda, they were setting up an IoT lab, and Professor Shukla contacted me to say, okay, what should be our IoT lab? And what I said was that, okay, please don't tell students to start making a mobile from scratch. Please tell your students to make a mobile much more advanced than what is today, right? So similarly for these building technologies, if we try to make a communication thing or an electronics just to maybe, done ourselves or show to somebody, okay, I made this project. It doesn't work. It is not beneficial. But if you study, okay, in the world, there is Bluetooth, Zigbee, Z-Wave, Anocean, IP500, Thread, LoRa, these kind of communication technologies are there. And then you are able to experiment in your labs, okay, according to me, for a building communication or for fire safety or for a street light automation or for smart metering, which one works better and how I can make it work much better, because these are just protocols. This is just the underlying technology. And there are a lot of applications. I mean, one of the failure of a lot of these communication protocols is the killer application. So one of the killer application you're seeing just now on your computer screen, that in case of social distancing, how easy it was to really measure the distance between two people sitting. You can just keep one desk free and allocate it. So this is what we need to experiment in our labs. Another example, this like Fitbits and wristband things. In case of COVID now, it is very important that the field people are always monitored for their body temperature. So, I mean, unfortunately, sometimes it happens that people have to save their jobs. And if they fall sick, they really don't want their owners to know that they are falling sick. So you can take a paracetamol and you can go to the work and nobody knows. But whom we are befooling? We are befooling ourselves and our fellow people's health and safety. So this is a wristband which you can wear. Now how it is working? It is working on BLE, Bluetooth connectivity, because your phone has a phone, right? So you can have a connectivity and the data can go there. So now we don't want to reinvent this Bluetooth connectivity. What we want to reinvent is this kind of a wristband or more applications and more technologies around, okay, what all it can do further. Maybe India has some different kind of challenges than Europe. So maybe our engineers and our industry is working more to solve our own problems. Okay, so this I have picked up from Journal of Electrical and Computer Engineering. just for the benefit of all the students out here, that what is the ecosystem of IoT? And of course, it is ever expanding, but to explain you. So this is mobile phone sensors. You know that there is a magnetometer, location sensors, movement sensors, camera, microphone, light sensor, and proximity sensor. Normally, these are the sensors in a smartphone. So the perception, the sensing is through these sensors in your mobile phone or neural sensors. Yesterday, professors talked about neural sensing for commanding the things with your thoughts. Medical sensors, for example, if you are having Fitbit kind of a device for your heart rate or blood pressure, other things, and even for the patients, you can have a lot of medical sensors relating the data. Environmental sensors like lux, presence, or humidity, temperature, CO2, so many sensing can happen. Chemical or biosensors, infrared sensors, and RFID. For example, we just spoke about RFID for access control or near field communication. So when we got this perception, we have to do processing. So there is one pre-processing, like you're defining the data so that it can go in the structured form to the communication. You're not just sending a garbage data out there. So a pre-processing happens. And then the communication. This is the most important part on which our electronic students and our computer students should work really hard, not to rediscover the communication and networking technologies, but to discover technologies which are there in the world as of now, and they are picking up really, really fast. I mean, if you read any article 3 years back, the whole thing has changed, the positioning has changed. So if this is the topic of our study and experiments, then we are going prepared. So what happens here is that you have got Internet Protocol for smart objects, so low power link layers, adoption layers, routing protocols, and application protocols. So when you, the students from computers and electronics will understand that what are these layers, but the thing is that in these layers, which communication technology has done what kind of a modulation, and where are they positioning this? So for example, low power technologies, you see they're talking of Bluetooth low energy. Now this paper I think was from 2016 or so, and now there is a Bluetooth mesh. A lot of people get confused that, okay, Bluetooth is like in our phone that you can just have a headphone connected to a Bluetooth device, and maybe after 10 minutes it will not work. If you go too much far from your phone, your headphone will not work. But in case of Bluetooth mesh, they have just used the name Bluetooth, that's it. They're not using anything else from Bluetooth. So they create a real radio frequency network of sensors and actors, and this can go to thousands of devices in kilometers of range in buildings. So imagine the Bluetooth mesh is completely different, but you know Bluetooth as it is. If you're not studied that, you're not experimented that, you're not aware where the world has already reached. So Wi-Fi, for example, is not the technology to be used for IoT because it is a power-hungry thing. And when we say that we need a better bandwidth in our buildings and cities, of course, that is true for video streaming, or for communication, or for data exchange. But in the world of IoT, the good news is that we are exactly equally same whether we are in Europe or in US or in India, because these communication technologies are using the same electromagnetic communication technologies over the airwaves, which anybody else can use, right? And there is no power required here because these are all low power, a few kilobytes of data going over distance of 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters, or 100 meters, and consuming power in milliwatts. So these are really, really equalizer, whether you're sitting in US, Europe, and India, you can use the same technology and achieve the same result. And of course, when I spoke about the NFC and wireless sensor networks and RFID and wireless sensor network integration onto this communication thing, then this comes a middleware. So now we are coming to application specific, database specific, semantic specific, event based, or service oriented middleware programming. This is like you are doing a firmware or middleware into your equipment. And then comes the application. This is that killer part that a lot of us need to really imagine. Of course, again, you can see from international players what they are doing, but I can tell you that if it is a lighting controls, it remains the same, that you need to have a sensing of daylight or ambient light availability. Based on that, your light should dim down, your scenes should set up, and if there is nobody there, lighting should dim down so that there is no energy wasted. So this is not different from anywhere else, but Yes, India maybe we are more traffic of people, we are more dense into our population, so maybe some small changes. But what it is achieving, so there are a lot of applications of health and fitness, supply chain, smart agriculture, energy conservation. Again, if we have our IoT labs with these communication technologies, our computer students can actually make those applications to really see in their own building. You can automate probably your own engineering college or the streets or your signages or your safety. I don't know. I mean, the colleges will be opening up sometime soon. How will you maintain those social distancing? Maybe with a Bluetooth beacon system. Very easy to do. Maybe you can put in your lights some beacons or Bluetooth beacons, and every student is having a Bluetooth open. It can be made mandatory into the campuses, and then yes, you got the tool in your hand without any investment. So these are the projects, lifetime project, life thing projects you can implement in college right now instead of going to industry. My main field is actually lighting and of course smart buildings and smart cities. So I will cover a specific technology today. I mean, of course, there are 10 or 12 protocols we can talk about in various seminars, but I just touch upon one so that you will understand that what is the depth of R&D they have already done, and what is all the world is taking, but not we, and how we can start from there and take more advantage going forward. So lighting is one of the best examples of IoT possibility for two reasons: that a lot of energy is wasted in lighting. The research is that from 18% to 24% is the lighting load from most of the buildings, and mostly lighting is on. Like you have seen your metro stations, famous metro station at airport or anywhere in the city. Have you seen any time the lighting is on? Whether somebody is there or not there, lighting is always on. Such a huge, colossal wastage of resources, especially now. Imagine that it must be shut for quite some time, or there will be low traffic also, whatever reason. But lighting load will remain the same. So, and the second thing is that because lighting is everywhere, at least at a distance of 7-8 feet, you will find another lighting source in the building. This is a very good network for having a mesh network. You can have the communication hopping on each other. So lighting can be used as a carrier of signals and messages for the other services like security or HVAC and so many other things. So this can be used as a carrier of the signals as well. Lighting has two purposes. Now, switches, sensors, controllers, and gateway. These are the IoT devices we already spoke about right now. There are some dimming technologies. Again, if somebody is studying this closely, he must look at what are these technologies. So DALI is Digital Addressable Lighting Interface. It's a protocol in Europe, which is also followed in India a lot. Unfortunately, this will be really surprising to all of your ears that in India, these DALI drivers are being used in millions of numbers. Like every project has say 5,000 DALI drivers or 10,000 DALI drivers. But I have yet to come to see a DALI gateway in India. So this is being imported from US, from Europe, from other places. But very rarely you get a DALI gateway in India. So at Intercraft, we have taken up a project to build DALI gateways in India, and we are keeping our communication protocols open. So we are making it for DALI to Bluetooth, DALI to IP500, DALI to Zigbee, DALI to Wi-Fi. So basically, this is what we learn from overseas, but we adopt to our applications. DMX is for color mixing, again a lighting protocol. Or you can have dimming of 0 to 10 volt, like you can modulate this thing and the lighting dims down, or pulse wave modulation technology. So you have to study this technology very well, and maybe do experiments in your labs to see how it works, which is a good application. Everything good. To be honest, DALI is the latest technology. Zero can have so everything works in different applications. Then you have got communication technologies, Bluetooth, iOS, Wi-Fi, Ethernet. Now there are so many. For example, Zigbee or Z-Wave or LoRa or IP500 or N-Ocean. So this is expanding. Now this lighting network has to speak to building networks, right? So then you have technologies like LawnWorks, KNX or BATNet. So these are all networks which are actually for building automation, but they can take the data. So if you've got a DALI gateway or a DALI server or a building a lighting server, it should be able to talk on BACnet. So then you can have a coordinate scene that in case of evacuation, the lighting can actually show the path which way to go. I mean, I can give you a very famous example in London, King's Cross Station, there was a major fire, or 9/11 happened in case of US, and people actually ran to the wrong direction. They actually ran into fire, or they did not know which way to go in a building. Now, lighting is such a easy thing to do because when fire happens, you don't listen to anything, you don't listen announcements, but you are always seeing, you're looking somewhere, and if a green light is flashing on one direction and red light is flashing other direction, of course your mind will work to run to green light and not to red light. Right? So it's very simple to do that. But those are the technologies that we need to adopt in our buildings from beginning. I mean, unfortunately, we don't equip our buildings. In one of the conferences, one of the consultants actually spoke to me to say, you see, you are talking of such expensive technologies. In fact, to be honest, some of us may ourselves have made this question that, okay, India doesn't have enough to eat, right? And in our buildings, you want to put these smart technologies that this is red and this is green. I mean, what the hell? Why you want to burn money? And then I had to reply to him that, do you know that we are already using building management systems imported from US or imported from Germany or Europe, and there you are happy to spend 10, 15 crores in a project, but you're not thinking of cutting down that expensive investment and rather invest into your own R&D and technologies here so that you can make those HVAC also intelligent. But I think it is more important to be safe from fires and evacuation, which we hardly implement into our buildings. So every life matters. I mean, you have seen the fires in Kolkata and so many places that people died because they did not have the working fire alarm system, so they did not know which way to go out. So I don't think so that it's a matter of choice whether you want to save money here or there. At least you can't save money on our healthcare systems or other things. So I'm saying that if our students have sufficient know-how and knowledge, probably they will come back with killer ideas to say, oh, so far our buildings have been happening in a wrong way. I mean, there is a very interesting example which we can cover in any of the next webinar, the AC power and DC power. Today, we use AC power in every building, but we are wasting 15% energy to convert from AC to DC. Now, IIT Chennai is really leading this effort to be a champion of DC power. Now, in lighting, we have a technology which is known as PoE, power over Ethernet lighting, or DC power systems. So what happens is that LED is a DC power source. Computers are a DC power consumer. Solar power, wind power gives DC power. So, I mean, the students have to really look from those eyes that no, our earlier generations of consultants or projects might not be happening in the perfect way, but the world is adopting this way, and I have studied this way. So why don't I can experiment and maybe something works out? So there are some specific protocols about lighting. Bluetooth, I explained to you that Bluetooth is now very vast with Bluetooth mesh. DALI, I explained to you, is a digital physical lighting interface. It's very easy because you can have up to 64 lighting drivers wired in a daisy chain, and the broadcast signal goes and the particular driver will know, okay, I have to dim down. So you can address 64 drivers on one daisy chain. You do not have star network, it's a bus network. Wi-Fi, all of us know, Wi-Fi is the future upcoming technology, but for Wi-Fi to work, you should have your lighting on a Ethernet network. That means PoE is important. So the World Trade Center, which I had designed, I had in my mind that, okay, in future sometimes Wi-Fi will become more relevant. But that time you can't go back and just take out all the AC wiring and put a new Cat6 cable. And it was not a rocket science. In the beginning, if we power all our lighting with Cat6 cable, then its system cost is the same. You are having safe DC power in the occupied area. But in future, if you need Wi-Fi, you can easily just put the Wi-Fi adapters and it works. You don't need to change the infrastructure. Why? So PWM, I explained to you, LearnWorks is the BMS protocol, Zigbee, Anocean, and all these technologies are the various technologies for lighting management. So today I will touch upon Enocean. Why I am touching Enocean is also very important. Enocean has just ventured in India. For 10 years, a lot of companies have been trying to bring it here, but there was some problem of the frequency because 868 megahertz is not allowed in India. So we had to, so this protocol was waiting, but now they have adopted for Bluetooth and Zigbee also, and Bluetooth and Zigbee networks are becoming more and more popular. So in case of wireless networks, one of the challenge is batteries, because batteries are again an environmental hazard. So you do big buildings, you do big projects, but you put a lot of batteries. In smartphones, a lot of devices you will be putting batteries, and then sometimes batteries just go away. So you have to, you come to know that a battery has gone bad because the device stops working. So for some days you think something has gone wrong, then you just go, okay, the battery has gone. But then how do we take care of the battery disposal? Again, a big issue in India. So Enocean is a technology. So you can see here the problem with conventional IoT wireless systems is that they are of course better than wired installations because flexibility is there. But then batteries, monitoring and stocking and prohibitive replacement cost, and of course, so the solution was self-powered IoT. So these are wireless, batteryless sensors and devices, and which can. So there are multiple ways of energy harvesting. So the protocol. So Enocean is a protocol. It's an IEEE protocol, only protocol around the world for energy harvesting in sensors and actors. And of course, Enocean is a company also giving certain products. So the claim is that when you put Enocean technology or energy harvesting technology into a project, then you're making it sustainable for 15 years. Because just to let you know that electronics or LED lighting has certain lifetime, 50,000 hours or 70,000 hours, and after that you have to change the electronics. But it is mostly because of power communications and heating and batteries and whatever. In case of this technology, for 15 years you're just forgetting everything. So you can have light, air quality, humidity. This is a very famous building at Frankfurt Airport. Around 20,000 sensors from Enocean are there. And this technology has been for last 19 years now. So Enocean Alliance is a self-powered wireless standard, and there are more than 400 members and 5,000 interoperable products. So basically, like IBM or Siemens or Honeywell, all these companies have Enocean products, and they are the members. So it's like member-driven alliance. So they just meet to each other. And as I was telling you, it's an IEC standard 1453-3-1X. But the same energy harvesting technology is also available on Zigbee and Bluetooth standards. So you can see here that Enocean Alliance, for example, Thermocon, ABB, Beckhoff, Honeywell, these are major international players who use this technology. And lighting, for example, Signify is Philips lighting, or Hue lamps, you may be knowing the wireless lamps, or Osram or Zoom is a big company. And if you see IBM, Microsoft, Cisco, Aruba, all these people work on Enocean technology. Why I'm taking these names? Because you have to understand that internationally, these companies do a lot of R&D research. They have their own proprietary solutions, but they also have these open solutions. So these companies tend to keep an eye and be ready with every option possible in the market. And then what happens that in a project, let's imagine in World Trade Center, we demanded IP5 representation. So people were offering IP5. In some of the projects, somebody said, I want to have Bluetooth network. So they don't offer, they will be out of that project. And of course, they try to push their own proprietary technologies, but as consultants or as users, we have to be really on our guard to say, no, I have done my study and I don't want to be stuck with one vendor or one company. So I'm looking for an open protocol. And a true IoT becomes only when it is open for all, right? It's a democratic situation. Like small Indian company, small manufacturer, or anybody who's not a multi-billion company can also participate in the technology. That is the democratization of the systems, and IoT does exactly the same. So this has been installed in more than 5 lakh buildings around the world, and saving around 50 million batteries. Imagine that because this technology was used, at least 50 million batteries are not required for this. Has more than 4 million battery-free installation and energy harvesting use, and more than 5,000 products in. And there will be trillions of IoT sensors by 2025. Everybody knows the famous study from Cisco and a few other future predictive companies or research that by 2025, we expect that around the world, there will be trillions of IoT sensors. You know, our mobile phones will probably be maximum 10 billion or 8 billion based on the total manpower. But imagine that IoT sensors will be multiple times of that. So it is very important subject compared to mobile phones or communication. So I'll quickly show you some of the detailed specifications and the protocol. So how this works, for example, a system architecture is with union bidirectional communication. So you have, let's imagine a room controller. Now this room controller will be completely battery free and wire free. So you can place it anywhere in the room. Like, you know, in a hotel, you get so when you check into a hotel, you have to really find where is that thermostat, and then you go and adjust it. But this can be very nicely put on near the bed or any convenient location because you don't need any wire and don't need battery. Then there can be window sensors. So if window is open, your air conditioning should not work because it's a wastage of energy, right? Or HVAC actuator. So now we are saying that those expensive BMS things, which projects are already burning crores of rupees, can be saved by having this wireless connectivity in a local way. So HVAC sensor, or in fact, instead of just having HVAC sensor, this can be a temperature, humidity, light, presence, common sensor. So what it is doing is that it is directly connecting to the room controller HVAC, but it's also giving information to gateway. Now from this gateway, it is going to a light actuator. And a smart sensor is giving again the information to room controller. So you see it's all happening in a mesh network, or it's not really a mesh network, it's a star network actually. But they're able to exchange information very easily. And then this information through this gateway can go to BATnet, Modbus, KNX, and so many protocols, so that the other participants in the building can also take advantage. So these are some of the sensors I was talking about: the temperature, humidity sensor, room thermostat, door window sensor, illumination sensors, occupancy, air quality, and acceleration sensors. And you can see that everywhere there is a photovoltaic built in. These are all photovoltaic. Or in the switches, they have kinetic energy. So basically, these devices do not need any battery, any charging. These photovoltaic are taking the charging from the ambient light available that is. So this is how an actuator works. So you have got a transceiver, you have got a this kind of a actuator, and then wirelessly this all is communicating to each other to HVAC light and everything. So basically, there is no wire required, and it is just the packets are broadcasted, and the right equipment will pick up and make the action. Now these all protocols are also having a lot of APIs. So you can have a different kits, you can have software tools for programming. I mean, again, as I said, that you need not reinvent the wheel. So you can have these the circuit boards and the peripheral devices, or you can have develop your own devices using their modules. So think of application and develop on this protocol. Of course, you can go back and develop the basic PCB also using the communication chip. So you've got everything here, like chip configuration programs and the software APIs and the view that how you can actually check the program also how it works. So you've got sniffers also here. These are more details about Studio View. And the most important part is gateways. Yesterday, in fact, I was talking to somebody in Germany, and we were talking about certain applications about the gateway, and his view was, see, the gateway is the easiest thing to make, actually, more than the devices. So in India, when we are talking about DALI Bluetooth gateways, I think our engineering colleges should do some research on gateways, because these are the really bridge between various services, various devices, various ecosystems, and the colleges can come back with with a nice ecosystem of their own, okay? A cloud also of your own. The colleges can actually maintain their own facilities on their own cloud. So N-Ocean, what happens is that you've got a gateway which is communicating on N-Ocean protocol or Bluetooth or Zigbee, whatever way, it's talking to lighting, window door contact sensors, PIR, thermostat, HVAC, and this in cloud monitoring can happen on Microsoft Azure or Amazon AWS or IBM Watson, and so many others. So again, not to reinvent the wheel, that if we try to make our own cloud, I mean, I see or hear a lot of things, but there are so many security levels and tools available that you can build your application and post it. Of course, doesn't mean for, and even the banks and security and defense establishment use those kind of clouds. So I don't think so there is an issue of security, but of course, it's a policy matter of a project. So this is like make your own gateway. So you can actually use these devices to create your own gateways, or you can make from scratch. And Raspberry Pi can be used, and you can make a gateway. So nice experiments can be done. And this is a new sensor which has come up, which has got 6-7 functionality of temperature, humidity, so vibration. And one of the very nice example, let me see if it is there further, but I'll show you. For COVID, it is very applicable right now. So this is the Bluetooth switch module, where when you press this switch, by kinetic energy, it is charging itself, or even by the temperature difference, it is charging itself. But this is a module which can go to any of the OEM switch. So imagine that. So in a home, or even if you're making an office or a classroom, you have normally the scheme that on the wall there will be a switchboard, and there will be some 10-20 switches on that, right? And then you say, okay, this switch is going to open up that light, this switch is that light. I mean, imagine we are using all the mobiles now with touch screen or voice command, but we are using our buildings and classrooms and offices by pressing those switches. So one is that, why to do that, working in the beginning to, okay, this light will be with this switch, this light with this switch. So you are pulling all the wires and things. And someday that switch stops working. You know, when you press the switch, light is on. So you don't know whether the light is not working or the switch is not working. So you call an electrician, and then he comes and checks, and okay, this is not working or that is not working. In your WhatsApp, when you send a message, if you don't see the delivered sign or Bluetooth sign, you are very, very impatient. Okay, what happened? I mean, you expect WhatsApp to let you know instantly whether my message was delivered or it has been read or not. But in a complex building system, you're spending a lot of money, but you don't know whether I press the switch. Has it given the command, or it has given the command but the lighting is not working? So if you use this kind of a wireless switch, it is actually a remote. It's not even a switch. So this switch is actually taking the data from those gateways or the network, and you can just press any of these 4 parts. So you can, so this can actually be programmed. So single rocker or double rocker, and a short press or a long press, and it is actually mimicking a program. So you can make a program that the short switch, it will dim to 50%. If you make a long press, it will dim to 100%. It's down to 100%. And a group of lights. It doesn't matter which it is connected to, because it's always in the application software that by pressing this action, what response you want. This is all in your control, like an app. So you don't need those traditional switches in your buildings at all. World Trade Center, designed in 2016, has no switch anywhere. It's not necessary. Even in a home also, you don't need to. I mean, now more and more people will go for voice activated. So you can do probably a lot of AI based or machine learning things about how this voice control things can command. A lot of things can happen automatically. You know, there is a Nest smoke detector, HVAC controller, which actually learns behavior of people in that home. So if you live in a home, your pattern is the same, more or less. You know, the weather are the same. So why you need to operate everything? You know? It will work for you on your own, on its own. So this is like an N-Ocean Bluetooth ceiling and occupancy sensor. You can see a big photovoltaic surface here, which is charging, and then with the PIS sensor, it can sense the optimum ambient lighting level and the presence of people. And this is the multi-sensor, temperature, humidity, acceleration, magnetic contact. A reporting interval can be altered according to sensor input. So these are all programming you can do. If an asset is in operation, it's being moved, then it might be that receive status update, the location. And again, when you go deeper into these subjects, maybe you would like to also know which are the other ecosystem players. So for example, Kasambi or Silver and these kind of people, you know, who are already developing a lot of mesh and tools. So you can see here that in lighting sector, for example, these kind of companies or protocols or mesh stack providers or groups like Silver is a mesh stack provider, Wirepass, and Nordic Semiconductor. So all these things should be tried hands-on. Or this wireless can work also with Zigbee. I'll show you quickly some interesting use cases that how these wireless devices work in real life application. So in a office setup, you have these wireless sensors which are sensing CO2, or these occupancy sensors which are measuring the ambient light present, and wall room controller, you know, which is basically a thermostat, or wireless or heating wall or reconditioning wall. And the light sensor. So these all are talking wirelessly to each other and also to gateway, and the things happen accordingly. I was telling you that this multi-sensor has a very unique case, especially in a COVID application. So if you see here that this lighting system, as I was explaining you, that because these are available all around the office building, this can create a very nice BLE mesh network, right? So you have availability of mesh network all around the building without doubt. Now, sensors use advertising broadcast to send data to BLE mesh, and seat multi-sensor use vibration to indicate presence. So what is happening, that if these seats have this small multi-sensor, somebody sitting on the chair or not can easily be measured because there will be some small vibration, right? So with that vibration, you are able to know that the distance between these two seats is 6 feet or not, because there is a Bluetooth beacon system by which you can measure actual exact location and the distance between these two. Again, a killer application for COVID, post-COVID application. And of course, on the door, you can have a open or shut sensor, and then wall is having a temperature humidity sensor. Space utilization. So again, you can have all these sensors and people count and heat mapping. And this is what IBM has installed in its German Munich office, and also in Dubai, I believe. It's the same I was explaining with subtext PI sensor for the location of people, and also giving a lot of data of history and popular hours and days and so on. Just to also let you know that in building industry and smart city industry, there is a big movement happening of digital twins. So if you have a physical building, you should also have its digital twin somewhere in your computer, so you can actually manage it from that, and also maybe in case of any fault happens, some disaster happens, then you can just replicate the program again. Disaster recovery thing for smart cities or smart cities. Or even a restroom management, you know, like soap supply, sanitizer supply, for example. People counter that how many people are using a washroom or toilet. I mean, that's also very sensitive now going forward. Right. So these are some of the applications. This was my presentation for today. If any questions are there, maybe asked, and any specific protocol or special application or knowledge about IoT in buildings in smart city, all questions are welcome. So
well, it's definitely, yeah, exactly. It's definitely a very nice presentation, and I asked to the participants to please open up. And if you're finding anything related with the presentation and somewhat you're working in some areas, you may ask your questions. It is definitely a very wonderful platform to clarify your doubts and to work upon the area in which you're looking for. Please The session is open for next 10 to 15 minutes for the questions.
I just got a comment from Saubhuta Datta. Digital twin was at the top of Gartner technology hype curve for 2019. So I'm not able to understand whether it is a hype or it's a negative or positive.
Yeah, hello. Good morning. Good morning, sir. Sir, Gartner is a survey organization that does something called technology hype survey. That what are the technologies that are being hyped up by the media and what have died down. So this thing, digital twin, was at the top in 2019. Means everyone was talking about, the media was especially enthusiastic about it. Just like it was enthusiastic about cloud computing in the year 2012. That's what I meant. So
but
it remains to be
I
seen.
want to clarify. Yeah, I want to clarify here that whatever Gartner has said, I don't know the full report. So after reading only, I think. Yeah, but I'm saying that even IoT also, a lot of people said it's a hype, and it's all it has no meaning. But
So actually, Gartner classifies it that there is something called hype, there is something called trough of enlightenment, there is something called plateau of disappointment. So something that is hyped may become a mature technology that is adopted, for example, cloud computing, or it may simply die out like fuel cells, for example. So it's not about
point is well
it's
taken.
not
But
about utility, it's about how much media is talking about.
Understood, but I'm saying at the same time that we have to put our common sense also over the survey or whatever. I mean, you would have heard a famous learning statement that if Henry Ford had gone for a Gartner survey, he would have never got a feedback to make a motor car. Probably he would have got a feedback to make a better horse car.
Yeah, absolutely.
Steve Jobs would have never made an iPhone, right? So let's make Gartner do whatever they want to do for their fancy offices. But I don't think so that digital twin is a hype, because honestly, you need a lot of digital twins of your metro stations, your train stations, your cities, your buildings, for the simple purpose that you don't know today what is going on in your buildings. I mean, even my first floor office, sometimes I leave my air conditioning on. And when I come back, I really feel bad. Oh, I wasted energy for 1 hour. So imagine the very big buildings of metro station. What is going on there? We have no insight.
So if I'm permitted, can I take 2 more minutes of yours?
Please go ahead.
So speaking of digital twins, there is something, companies like Boeing and Airbus, they are trying to come up with a new business model based on digital twins. So unlike now, they don't plan on selling the entire aircraft engine to but then they are going to lease it out and monitor the usage by observing the digital twin, and they will bill per usage hours. That's what they are planning.
Okay.
Let's see how much they are successful at implementing it, how much not.
Correct. So what happens that it may be a failure, it may be a success, but imagine this, that both of these leading aircraft companies have thought about, right? So that means there is something out there. I mean, imagine this, Uber and Ola, you have been using ride sharing, right? Now,
yes,
it was very useful before pre-COVID, but post-COVID, of course, it will become a bigger problem to use, and I don't know how far it goes and what happens. But there have been a lot of talks of the Uber of medical professions, the Uber of advocates, or Uber of so many other services. I am using, particularly in my business right now, Uber of professionals. So we don't have people full-time, people are just working as per their capability. We can tap anywhere in the world and we can get it because the tools are available. To apply.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. We cannot predict what exactly is going to happen, Gartner or no Gartner. Only time tells.
Exactly.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good question. Is anybody else from the forum? So I believe
you may just, I'm sorry, I'm just interrupting. Even somebody have any question and definitely having some excuse, so may type the question in the chat box too. We can read out those questions, please, if anybody is interested to ask.
If no one else is asking, can I ask another question?
Go ahead.
Sure.
Okay, the question is, now this is not about lighting per se, but it's about enterprise resource planning and technology implementation. A lot of projects, a lot of technology implementation projects fail because the technology that's being implemented is not aligned with the business objectives. So how do you take care of this aspect, that the business strategy is synchronized with the IT strategy?
Very, very good question. In fact, this was the right question to be asked in this forum, because what applies to ERP or CRM or other fields, the same applies to building automation. So the important thing is that wherever ERP or CRM has failed, it's only and only for one reason, that it was not implemented in the beginning itself from the full conviction. The top management never got involved, and they just delegated it to one of the team members or IT head to say, okay, it seems we should use it, go ahead and implement it. It will always fail. If it is done with the conviction of top management, that is, they say they visualize the benefits of ERP or CRM, it is no reason not to be successful. So
Yeah,
imagine
absolutely right.
post-COVID. So I just got another question from Navneet. What are the security measures taken while using 6LoWPAN in today's scenario? Again, a very relevant question, but again, when you read these protocols, there are specific protocols for comfort, there are specific protocols for fire safety and evacuation, and those security measures are built there, and there are multiple levels of security. So EAS 128 encryption into the packets going from one sensor device over the network and to the gateway, gateway security features, and then at the cloud level. So there are various levels of doing it, and of course, sharp minds and anybody can hack anything in the world, not a challenge. But the thing is that how much you are protecting it against the common possibilities of hacking, and the fail safe. Your network has to work; it should not fail. So those are the features being built by these protocols which you need to study, and accordingly, which one to be used in which case should be decided. Yeah. So I think we can close the session because no other question is coming, and anything is further there, we can of course interact in the next webinar or.
Exactly. That's definitely so nice session, sir. And we definitely have got so much information about that. Actually, in this webinar, most of the participants are the academicians. They are the academicians working in their sectors, and the students are there. And one thing is here, on the behalf of all the participants, I would like to put here on this forum that we will also just keep enforcing to our students to work in the areas of the IoTs, and they start working in that direction, and they just put there some microcontroller Arduino based projects or the Raspberry Pi projects, and then connect some LEDs and controlling with the Blink apps like that. And they said I have just created somewhat related with the IoT's applications. So nowadays they are just creating such kind of a prototypes. So on this platform, because it is definitely very much informative platform, I would like to ask your request to you. So kindly suggest all the academician as well as student in which way they should start working to create actual prototypes related with the IoTs, and where they can get all the resources and helps. Please elaborate a little.
Thank you so much for this very important question, because that's what I was trying to say, that let us not go back to the caveman situation or the primitive situation that, okay, we start from scratch everything. Then it will not be very interesting. But if we, so one of the IoT lab which I think REC Banda is setting up, or I think Jhansi, the Bhubaneswar is also setting up, is that to have the development kits of various protocols. So if you have an Notion, you've got Bluetooth, you've got NB-IoT, you've got LoRa mesh, for example. So if you have got the basic components of the gateways and the chip and the software stacks, even of this mesh stack, first is that should be laid upon. That should be acquired or got there. And secondly, the project should be some real-time project. So go one step ahead of that. That use those development kits to create a working prototype of a modern office or an airport or
building, whatever. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So I was just saying that these are the real life cases. So as I was saying that your own college, your lab, or the place your institution is, maybe in that village or in the neighborhood, or maybe waste management systems or post-COVID precautions of sanitization, social distancing, and you can imagine so many other things. I mean, the world is going to be full of challenges and opportunities both. So those applications can, and you can have industry collaboration on that. Honestly, as I said, that Uber of services, Uber of talent. Similarly, there are a lot of companies who are looking at the colleges to collaborate with them. So maybe you can reach out to these industries and they can do some real life projects in your labs. In fact, I was talking to one of your, I think, Banda only, that once the lab is set up, they can actually get projects from industry that, okay, we want to develop this particular sensor on LoRa network, or we want to develop this kind of a gateway or actuator on an ocean network. Can this college help us in that? So the students, instead of just doing some theoretical projects, they're actually working shoulder to shoulder with the current industrial projects. This is how MITs and Harvards and all those people work, and the students during the project itself make successful ventures. So maybe we are thinking too far, but at least this can be the beginning to acquire the right available protocols in the market and then do experiments thereon further.
Exactly, this is very right answer, definitely. Now the participant will have a different approach to work upon that, and they might be just creating something special and something other than the actual one they are just doing that. So it's a good one. So well, thank you very much for I just take over this to organizing team. So one more thing is here. Meanwhile, I would like to request you to please just share some contact numbers and some details related with you, so that if some other student or any participant will be working in that area and finding some sort of difficulty, can ask to you and consult to you. So please.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll stop sharing the screen, and please, if the call can be now closed, anything else is to be asked. Yeah.
Anyone has any other question? One last time, I'm asking all the attendees, if you have any question, you can just ask. We have Vinay Agarwal with us today, so you can just clear your any query, any doubt you have regarding the session. I don't think we have any other questions. So I hope कि जितने भी faculties, students हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए थे, उनको ये webinar अच्छा लगा होगा. And the best thing was we had such knowledgeable people as our audience. We had students, we had faculties from all over the colleges, and also the speaker, Engineer Vinay Agarwal, was very successful, I believe, in delivering the session. So before we move on, I would like to ask all attendees to please just describe in just 1 or 2 words, how did you find the session to be? आपको वेबिनार कैसा लगा? 1 या 2 वर्ड्स में बताइए चैट बॉक्स में. Excellent, wonderful, informative session. Very informative. It was informative.
Knowledgeable
What-
session.
Something knowledgeable. That means जो हमारा aim था कि ये जो वेबिनार था 2 दिन का, उसके दोनों डेज आपके लिए हम इंफॉर्मेटिव बना पाए और आपको कुछ नया सिखा पाए, उसको हम लोग अचीव करने में सक्षम साबित हुए हैं. And that was all our aim was. So to present a vote of thanks, I now welcome the Chief Executive Officer of Softpro Group, Mr. Shia Sanam.
A very good afternoon to all the attendees and the participants. Finally, we have come to the closure, and I'm here to close the ceremony, this webinar activity, the series of webinar for 2 days, what we have organized on industrial automation attributes and the role of IoT post COVID-19. So I think the 2 days were very informative and very beneficial for all the participants, because yesterday we have covered artificial intelligence, one of the most brightening technology which is coming into the field, and today we have covered the topic IoT, Internet of Things, which is yet another very important field for all the engineers, all the people who are associated with this era, with the era of data technology. No doubt. And I would really sincerely say thanks to Vinay Agarwal sir for giving such an enormous and a very informative speech on IoT. The presentation which he has shown today and all the the contents which has been delivered was very beneficial. And I think after the webinar, the 2 days webinar, all the participants, I think everybody, especially the students, they must have got a correct career path, how they can start their career or what they can do using these 2 major technologies, AI and IoT. So with this, I also would like to say thanks and pay regards to the team of TMU, Tirthankar Mahavir University. I would like to say thanks to the Vice Chancellor who has yesterday given such a nice speech in his inaugural. And also, I would like to say thanks to Dr. Rakesh Devedi sir, who has given us this opportunity to organize a webinar, a 2 days webinar for the faculties and the students of TMU. I also sincerely say thanks to Dr. Pankaj, who has been such a nice coordinator, and we both since past 1 week we were into touch, and we have finally has organized this webinar perfectly, and I think it was flawless. And really the students, the faculties, the academicians, everybody has got a lot of benefits out of this webinar. So thank you so much, everyone. And we hope that we'll be organizing such kind of innovative webinars in pipeline in near future. Thank you so much.
So, well, thank you very much, Ms. Shiyasi. Definitely, you just coordinated so well, and definitely this only because of your enthusiasm and creativity that we have reached to this particular stage. So now I would like to call Dr. Murtaza Juneja, Head of the Department, Electronics and Communication Engineering Department, Tirthankar Mahavir University. From the behalf of the Tirthankar Mahavir University, she's just being invited to say a vote of thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, actually, this was indeed a very great session today as well as the yesterday one. So very good afternoon to everybody, all present here, all the participants. So it is my privilege.
Ma'am, I think by mistaken your mic is mute.
I would also thank our dynamic principal and director, FOECS, Professor R.K. Dwivedi sir, for his motivation and constant inspiration, and for giving us this opportunity to organize this webinar. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for our yesterday's speaker, Mr. Prithvish Sen, Senior Instructor, Aspire Vision, for his speech on AI and ML yesterday. I wish to express my gratitude to our chief guest, Mr. Vinay Agarwal, Senior Smart Home Consultant at Softpro India Private Limited, for his session today, and the way he explained the topic was actually very exemplary. I'm thankful to the team of Softpro, all the organizers, everybody involved from Softpro, all the coordinators, for making this webinar a success and for the effective collaboration with us. We are very grateful to you all. I heartily congratulate all the participants for their active participation and their presence today and yesterday. I am grateful to our convener, Dr. Pankaj Goswami, for all the hard work he has done for making this event fruitful for all the attendees here. As no program can be successful with a single person, so I extend my big thanks to our ECE, Electronics and Communication Engineering Department, for their support, and for all the organizers who are here and who were here yesterday also constantly working. So once again, I thank all for your cordial cooperation. I thank you all. That was all from my side. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your very kind words. Now, as you all know that this webinar was certificate-based, so very soon you all will be getting an email on your registered email IDs, on which you will be getting a link on which you have to fill the details that you want on your certificate, the correct spelling of your name, and the email address on which you want to receive your e-certificates. So with this, I would like to once again thank the speakers of yesterday and today, the organizers of Tirthankar Mahavir University, the dignitaries of the college, the dignitaries from SoftPro, and also the convener of the webinar, Dr. Pankaj Kumar Goswami, for the smooth execution of the whole webinar. I hope to see you all someday very soon with some webinars, some new technology, and we then hope to serve you all in the future. I now sign off, and I'm going to end this session now. Thank you all.